Great. Well, we have several folks in the audience today, and we have a wonderful cadre of folks that have registered, about 80 or so. Most of them are online, so we welcome you as well. I'm going to briefly introduce myself and really send it over to the panel, which is here, which is a terrific group of folks that we're going to have a great conversation with you. So my name is Oswald Mondejar, and I am one of the commissioners. I'm the commissioner on the status of persons with disabilities. I am thrilled to be with you today for so many reasons. And before we get started, I want to really share with you that our chair and Representative Denise Garlick is here, and she's in the audience. So I want to thank you, Chair Garlick, for leading this organization. And this is the first time we've had a permanent commission. So would you like to say a few words, Chair?
It's always the open invitation to anyone who runs for office, right? The words that I would like to say is I want to recognize that Imene Bouziane Saidi is here, who is the program director for the commission, has been the leading force in all of the activities we're doing today, tomorrow, and an event next week as well. And I want to recognize the commissioners. The commissioners are appointed from a variety of authorities across the Commonwealth. They are our greatest strength. They are our network to reach out. I am known to say that the issues of individuals with disabilities, many times it seems like a planet. An individual disability, the different needs they might have, the language that's used, the accommodations we might want to make, all of those issues, right? But there is an entire galaxy. So I'm trying with the commission members to unite those planets into a galaxy. These events today, I think, are the kickoff to that very great work that has been happening. So to Imene, to this panel, to all of the commissioners, my sincere thanks. It is great work on behalf of so many individuals in our Commonwealth.
Thank you, Chair. We appreciate that. And so I'm going to turn over to my good friend over here, Imene, and she's going to give us a little bit of housekeeping.
Thank you all for joining us today. As Oz and Chair Garlick mentioned, my name is Imene Bouziane Saidi. First, I want to do a sound check, make sure everybody can hear us on Zoom and in person. Thank you. First, we would like to thank our park services provider, Lisa, who is on the Zoom right now to provide parks for those who may require it. We also have about 80 registered participants for today, whether they're on Zoom or in person. So we're really thankful to be able to set this up as a hybrid so everybody can participate in this important conversation. Thank you to our wonderful panelists for being here today. You're going to hear from expert in the subject matter when it comes to employment. Please reach out to us at the end of this panel to get their contact information if you'd like to reach out to them. And I want to thank Community Work Services for catering our events. We are really excited to have them here, and we are supporting their mission deeply. As Oz will mention soon, we'll have our inaugural commissioner event next tomorrow at 11 o'clock in Great Hall. Keynote speaker, Secretary Kate Walsh will be joining us. Champions in the employment workplace will be with us, and we will be awarding workforce support employees to help persons with disabilities gain meaningful employment. Next week, we will have an SSI and SMDI myths debunked panel session. It'll also be hybrid. Please join us, and we'll have a conversation with ADDP and Providers Council on providers who provide services for persons with disabilities and the workforce shortage that the nation right now is going through. So back to you, Oz.
Well, thank you, Imene, and you shared an awful lot of good things that I was going to about to say, so I appreciate that. So the title of our session is Opening Doors Employment for Persons with Disabilities. And I can't think of a more important topic. When I was just sharing with my colleague here, Joan Phillips on Mass Rehab Commission, you'll hear from her. While the unemployment rate remains very low in our state and throughout the country, the community with disabilities is still at 67% unemployed. Which is really significant. 22%, correct me.
22% employment rate.
Yes.
Versus 67% for non-disabled.
For non-disabled. So we have a long way to go. And this has been a journey that I've been on for over 35 years, and it still continues. Our panelists today are really, truly not only experts, but they are advocates. They wear this responsibility very, very profoundly, and you'll hear from their lived experience and their work experience. And then we'll enter into a question and answer period. Soon after that, what we'd like to do, and most importantly, is hear from you, to share with us what you're doing, to ask us questions, and we'll also be taking them through chat. So please be comfortable doing that. Before I turn it over to my panel, our panel and friends, let me just share a little bit about my journey. And I was born before the ADA was even thought of. I was born at a time when we didn't discuss disability. It was a time where you didn't get to play, you were dismissed. There wasn't inclusive education. There was certainly very little recreation, and never thought of employment. I have a limb difference. I have one hand, and the other one, what I say, is differently designed. And I never thought of myself as disabled. As a matter of fact, I didn't want to be part of the community. Until the ADA came in is when I found my voice. I found my holistic approach to this incredible community of real experts and advocates. I've always come at this from the business perspective. And when I think of my survival, it was about work. At 13, I found my first job. I don't know if I would have made it if I did not have that grocery boy job. And that really turned the corner for me, because then I could do something. I could contribute. I could be part of some social interaction where I was failing in school and I didn't fit in. So that really led and opened doors to me. And since that time, everywhere I've been in my career, within many wonderful institutions within Massachusetts and other parts of the state, as well as in government, that's been my passion. Unfortunately, we're still struggling. There's a mysticism around hiring folks with disability that really, really strikes me still. I'm always saying hire for talent, hire for ability. And when you open the doors for us for employment, we bring not only our skills and our abilities, but we bring innovation. We bring can-do, and we bring a sense of camaraderie to the organizations we work for that includes not only the folks we work with, but the families that have children or spouses or partners with disabilities that are in these employers. And so it really does elevate the discussion of diversity in these organizations. Once again, I am a fortunate guy, but there are many folks that still live within the poverty level that really struggle. And for us today, we're thrilled to have not only employers in the audience, but we also have those that support us in the process and those that are advocating for themselves in the world of employment. So without further ado, let's get started. And just to reiterate, this is a beginning of a series of wonderful programs that we have. And tomorrow we have our inaugural event where we'll be recognizing employers. And once again, this is a permanent commission.
Sorry, also, if I may, would like to recognize that Representative Kate Donahue is here with us today. Thank you.
Welcome, Representative. Thank you for being here.
Representative of where? Of what? From the Brigham.
Terrific. Great. All right, so let's get started. So you're going to hear from each of our panelists, but let me just give you their names and their location of work. We're going to meet Erich Manser. He's a digital accessibility consultant at Harvard University and information technology. And when I think of Erich, and I'm just getting to know him, it's around removing digital barriers. We can remove physical barriers, we know that, but the digital barriers still remain. Colleen Moran, she's a director of workforce integration and workforce development from Mass Brigham, and I think has been doing this work for many, many years. And we've had the great pleasure of not only being friends, but really being on the journey together, and you'll hear from her. We have Joan Phillips, Assistant Commissioner for the Massachusetts Rehabilitation Commission, an incredible ally, not only to the clients they serve, but to the business community. And I can tell you that without hesitation. She was an incredible ally for us when I was in place at Mass General Brigham and continues to be for all the businesses in Massachusetts. Laura Stout, the Director of Contract Operations and President of Empowering Abilities from Blue Cross Blue Shield of Massachusetts. And when you hear from Laura, you'll not only hear about her work within this very large organization, but her work in advocacy. And all these folks are a true advocate. So let me start with Erich, and then we'll just go down the line. It'll be Colleen next, Joan, and Laura. And once again, this is a conversation, so we want to hear from you. We'll have an opportunity to do that. So welcome, Eric, and thank you all for being here. Do you want to get started and just tell us a little bit about yourself?
Sure. Well, as mentioned, I am Erich. I am a digital accessibility consultant at Harvard currently. I'll share a visual description if it's helpful for anyone. I'm a middle-aged white male. I have a shaved head and I wear dark rimmed glasses. I'm 50 years old currently, and we learned when I was just 5 that I have a degenerative eye disease that typically leads to blindness. So at this point, I've got a small amount of remaining vision, but it's been a long path. As a younger person, I had much more vision than I have today. But as a result, the importance of accessible technology and specifically digital content that is accessible to everyone, very near and dear to my heart, and in a very firsthand way, I came to realize the importance of it. And so it was not really early on my planned career path, but purely out of the recognition of the essential nature of technology that everyone can use is how I found my way in working in digital accessibility. So it's great to be here. Very pleased to advocate for inclusive employment around disability as well. So happy National Disability Employment Awareness Month.
Well, thank you, Eric. And we would love to hear more from you as we get into the Q&A around removing some of those barriers and how you go about that work, which is still very new and up and coming for all of us. Colleen.
Hello. Hi, everyone. I'm Colleen Moran. I'm Director for Workforce Integration with Mass General Brigham. Mass General Brigham is the largest private employer in Massachusetts, second only to the state government. We have 84,000 employees, and so quite a spread and a reach geographically and occupationally. Lots of different jobs, lots of different abilities, lots of different locations. And I got into this work, as Oz mentioned, through my time at Spalding Rehabilitation Network. There came a time when Oz and I reported into him, where Oz and I were talking about, it'd be great to have somebody to kind of focus on being able to do the work that we always wanted to be able to do around getting our patients to be able to see people with disabilities contributing and thriving sort of once they've been able to stabilize from what their experience was that brought them to Spalding. So we partnered with a lot of the wonderful organizations in the state, the Mass Rehab and the Mass Commission for the Blind, Work Without Limits. There's a lot of different places to tack into, and we can talk about that further. But there's a lot of information out there that helped us be able to build programs, be able to try different things. We've had entry-level programs. We've had on-the-job placements for more senior folks. We can kind of figure out, I always like to say I can figure out a placement for people. It's just a matter of trying to network through to find the right place for someone to pop into. So it's very rewarding work for me. I just think it's amazing to be able to integrate people with all abilities into work. And it's such a eye-opening and learning experience for the colleagues who are welcoming them. A lot of people are nervous because they don't want to make a mistake, but once you kind of get over that first anxiety, it kind of, disappears and people just kind of start to work together like you and I work together. So, yeah. So lots to share, and be happy to talk to anybody further on after the event too, if you want to talk about implementing.
Questions as you speak.
So let's go to the panel, but I don't want to hesitate. I want to take your first question.
I was asked, she said integration at Brigham and Women.
That's one of our hospitals, yes.
One
Yep.
of your,
Yep.
what kind of jobs do they offer for disability?
Well, we encourage anyone to apply for any job that they're interested in. And so there's not sort of a list of jobs for people.
CNA?
They could. It depends on the need of the job and the abilities of the person, but we can certainly find, a match. So we can look to see what we can find.
Well, thank you. And thank you for the question. We'll definitely follow up with you on that because we have.
CNA.
Great.
To renew my license, but I can't get my license renewed unless I get a.
Well, I appreciate your question. We're going to definitely get to know you before the end of the session. So thank you for that. I want to say a little bit about the work that Colleen has led. So along the way, when we're trying to advocate for for recruitment and sourcing of individuals with disabilities, first abilities, is that we have to be really business focused. And as much as it's the right thing to do, I understand that. I think everyone in this room gets that and online. But then there's going to be an economic development piece, because if not, it's not sustainable. So by not including persons with disabilities, as Colleen does in this organization, we're losing a whole bunch of talent in Massachusetts. So it really is about business. And then we will talk about that a little further, and some hiccups along the way. So thank you, Colleen.
Sure.
And now we turn it over to Joan Phillips.
Hey, everyone. My name is Joan Phillips. I'm Assistant Commissioner of Vocational Rehabilitation and Workforce Development at the Massachusetts Rehabilitation Commission. I am a woman of color. I have dark brown hair, which is up in a bun. I am wearing a pink dress with a, oh, the striped, multicolored blazer. And it's my pleasure to be here. I have the good fortune of working for MRC, Mass Rehab Commission. At the Mass Rehab Commission, we assist individuals with disabilities to live and work independently in the community. I oversee the vocational rehabilitation division, and I always say we have two customers in the vocational rehabilitation division: individuals with disabilities who we help to prepare for employment, and the business community who we prepare candidates to work at various organizations. And we've had the distinct pleasure of working with Colleen and Oz before he says he's retired, but I don't believe him, before he retired. And, you know, we prepare individuals by providing job-driven trainings. We have great partnerships with organizations across the Commonwealth. We partner also with community rehabilitation providers who are responsible for about a third of the job placements that we have at the Mass Rehab Commission. We believe in being as innovative as possible in assisting the individuals we serve in obtaining employment that is in alignment with their interests, skills, and abilities. And I'm sure I'll have opportunity to talk more about some of the innovative practices that happen at MRC and our success in placing individuals into employment.
Is that the organization that used to be at Tremont in downtown Boston?
Yes,
Where is
That-
it relocated to now?
600 Washington Street downtown.
Where? And how far away from where?
It's right in Chinatown. It's not very far from where it was.
Not very. I haven't got a ticket to work in a long time.
We can talk after. Happy
Okay.
to talk to you.
Excellent. Well, thank you, Joan. And when you mention innovation, I'll say a couple of things. When I was with Mass General Brigham and other organizations, I thought of MRC as an ally, an extension of our Human Resources Department. Because they're state agencies, you would think they would be bureaucratic. And yes, there's some of that. But innovation was part of their core work. They thought of different things, how to partner with us in the business side, and oftentimes took risks with us and tried different things. So truly the benefit to any businesses that are thinking of going down this path, and I hope you seriously consider working with MRC, because they are a true ally and they will provide resources that you wouldn't even think would be available, not only to hire folks, but we also have an aging population. So as our population ages, they need some accommodations. I would go to MRC saying, what do you think about this? Give us some insight. Obviously confidentially and very respectful of the individual, but looking for ways to not only hire, but retain. It's a really important piece, because if not, it's a revolving door for the businesses. So I really do think that's a critical piece. And Joan, we're going to get back to you on more of that. And now, not least here is Laura Stout.
Thank you, Oz, and thank you to the commission for inviting us to be here today to talk about our experiences, talk about driving disability inclusion across the Commonwealth. Commission work is hard work. I respect it, and I'm so glad that the commission is focusing on it. It's never more of a time than now to have a focus on that. And I'm also excited to be here with my colleagues, who I now feel like they're my friends too. We've been on panels before over the years, and it's just great to come back together and can't say enough for they get to be in real life today. She is the powerhouse that got us together over the past few months to join and talk about what we want to share today. So first I have to say, give a little description. I am a little person. I'm just about 4 feet tall. I'm Caucasian. I have brown hair. I wear glasses. And I'm wearing a turquoise jacket, and I'm sitting next to Erich, sitting next to Imene. So I'm happy to be here. First of all, I will say, you know, I live and work and breathe in the disability community because I am a person who is living with a disability. But first of all, I am a mom. I have 2 daughters that are teens, and one is a person who's a little person as well. And my youngest is average size, and my husband's a little person too. So our family dynamic is really interesting. We kind of call ourselves interspatial. I say that first because, you know, to make a connection that not only do I have this amazing opportunity to be in the workplace, but my biggest job is to be a mom and a parent. So for those parents out there, let's give ourselves a high five, right? But at any rate, you know, I've been in the workforce about 35 years, and I do have to give a nod because I don't know if I've ever shared this, but I was a client of MRC. And when I was 16, I got my first job. I was selling beach stickers, right? And I'm telling you, that was like amazing. So I had my first entree into the workplace doing that job, and it was so important for me to learn how to be in the workplace. So thank you. So I am a recipient of that program, which is never so important than it is now. But at any rate, I have the amazing role at Blue Cross. I've been there 35 years. So you're probably thinking, how does someone stay at a company for 35 years? I've been there because I love what I do and I do what I love. And they've invested in me, right? And that's where we want to anchor, in places where people invest in us and hear and listen and see our value. Right now, I have an amazing role where I get a chance to work and lead through our contract operations team, working probably with the smartest people in the industry. And I'm always in awe of that. And I always like to surround myself with people who love what they do too, and really want to strive and do right by our customers here at Blue Cross. But at any rate, I also have a really fun role that I took on, leading the Empowering Abilities Employee Resource Group. And that we're driving disability inclusion in our company. And we're really making some strides, and I'm really proud of the work that we're doing that's evolved over time. And I want to talk a little bit about that today. But I also have, as Rob said, I do spend a lot of time in the advocacy space. Not in one space, but I feel like I've been kind of going between all different spaces, such as I spend a lot of time with the Brandeis Lurie School of Health Policy, focusing on parents with disability and helping them understand what their rights are as a parent who has a disability, being able to retain rights. Amazing work that's being done there in policy making. In addition, I have another amazing opportunity to sit on the Attorney General Disability Rights Commission along with Oz as well, where we hear what's on the mind of our AG office and how they're trying to drive inclusion in their workplace, but also understand some of the issues that are happening in the Commonwealth and how they can play a part in solving some of those issues. And I also have an amazing responsibility being on the Mass Commission Against Discrimination. Amazing work being done there at that commission. I respect the work that's being done there, the team and the breadth of experience that's coming to the table to help us really understand what's happening with discrimination, not only just with the disability community, but other communities as well. So I say that not because of bragging, but just because I love being around people who are driving this work, right? And sometimes it feels like an uphill battle, but it's not. We have to do it together. And that's why I'm excited to be here with this panel and have you hear your questions and how we can continue to drive the work across the Commonwealth. So thank you. I'm excited about being here. Thank God.
Thank you, Laura. Thank you very much. I think you made several points. I'm going to go right back to you. And one of it is that when you get involved in this work, you can't help but do more. And the reason for that, I think, is very personal, but it's less about disability, but finding a way to include and not be excluded. We see it, we live it, and we can't help but do more. So we welcome folks to our community. And it's not about disability and ability. It's really about all of us. We're human beings. So opening those doors, I think, is really critical. And it's very exciting. I'm very excited about this next generation of individuals with disabilities because they're not taking no for an answer. So with that, I'm going to start with Laura, and then we're going to go round robin. And thank you, panelists, for introducing yourselves. So Laura, within Blue Cross Blue Shield, you have a significant role. You're very visible there. You just mentioned that you are leading the one of the ERGs. How can an organization think about disability inclusion within their DEI efforts, diversity and inclusion efforts?
That's a really great question. And sometimes people, when they hear that, they think, wow, that sounds like a big road and a big responsibility. And I started with the word strategy. It's really, and not to use it in a way that becomes overwhelming, right? Because we all have to do some sort of strategic work in our workplaces. But in our company, diversity and inclusion is so important. It's the fabric of our culture. And we have a new CEO, Sarah Island, and she chairs our diversity council. And we've been for the past 10, 15 years very focused on diversity inclusion, and now we're taking it to another level. And that means we're including diversity, equity, inclusion, and belonging. So it's now DEIB, okay, for us as a company. And that means that as a company, we're focused on not only our employees and what they bring to the workplace, ensuring that they have access to what they need to do their job every day, but also feel like you can bring yourself to the workplace and that you belong. And that's very much at the root of this whole work around diversity, equity, inclusion. And disability is part of that. And where it fits in is that it's, even though it's a class like an ADA, but in our culture, what it means is that we recognize that we can come to the workplace with our disability and we need accommodations, but we also recognize that you can move into a disability, but then you can also have a temporary disability. So there's a number of different dynamics that can be developed. But what we're about is making sure that our employees have a path forward to be able to make sure they can do the job and be successful and really have an opportunity to have career growth, right? So what does that look like? Well, it has to start with the strategy. Like I said, it's evolved, right? It didn't flip the switch overnight. And we look at it from the angle of when we look at career, we look at culture, we look at community, we look at care, and we also look at commerce. That's like a 5C prong, right? It probably sounds like a lot, but it's not. What it does, it helps us take that strategy and now roll it down to engaging our employees. How do we do it? With employee resource groups. And those employee resource groups, there's 10 of them. We could probably have more. There are some companies across the Commonwealth and across the country that have more. Those are specific employee resource groups that are tied to a specific community, identity. The disability inclusion one is very focused on all dimensions of disability. So in our group, we talk a lot about specific areas that might be pain points. We just had a big seminar on ADHD in the workplace, right? I hadn't really heard much about that. And it was the most riveting conversation about how our employees are self-identifying and also becoming diagnosed later in life. And I say that we would have never known that unless we had a conversation about it. And how do we as an employer meet our employees in the space they're at? So I use that kind of as an example to say that if we didn't have the structure in place for employee resource groups to have these conversations and really understand what we can do better, we wouldn't be able to understand. So that's why I think it's having a place for employees to bring their ideas and their thoughts is so important, because that's what engagement is. And I find that work so riveting and important because over the years that I've been doing it, there's new entrants of topics, right? And also what happens is over time, people feel more comfortable and they're more comfortable saying they're a leader. I think I'm going to need the accommodation because I'm losing my vision. We want that conversation to happen. We want our employees to be able to say, I need some assistance. What can we do about that, right? So I think that starting at the grassroots and really creating the awareness, having workshops and training, all that is part of the fabric of helping employees come to the workplace and say, I feel like I belong. I feel like I could spend 35 years there, right? I mean, I have people look at me for 35 years. Yeah, and I'm going to retire there. I love what I do. And it's because I've had a chance to do different things there. I've not been in the same role, right? And it's because I've always raised my hand and said, sure, I'll figure it out, right? That's why I have a job. I'm a problem solver. And I was saying that to Erich, right? We're problem solvers. not only in our workplace, but I do, as a person with a disability, I feel like I need to spend more time trying to figure things out. And having that kind of in my, I would say, my whole personality and the way I look at things, it really helped me. So I think that, so I would say, in closing on that kind of question, don't let the word strategy be intimidating, right? It's just a place to start. Talk to other employers about how they're doing it. I mean, Eric and I talk a lot about what's happening in our workplaces, and how we can do things different, and how we can kind of benchmark. So I do think it's really about that network, asking questions, opening up the conversation, inviting other people in, right, to hear their stories. So.
Thank you very much. I'm going to reflect on two things. One is that, yes, the word strategy is a big word, and not a lot of employers are the size of Blue Cross Blue Shield. But what we're offering here today is we're resources to you. If you're a small business and you're having a struggle, we can't answer all the questions, but there is a network of us that would really want to help, because as a small business, you may not have a human resources department that is so robust, but you don't have to do it alone. And there is this mysticism around hiring individuals with disabilities that we still struggle with. I always say hire and then manage as you would manage anyone else. But there are resources there. And what I'm thrilled to hear from Laura is that the diversity and equity programs, initiatives don't always include disability. And disability crosses all communities. So that intersection is really palpable. And I'm just thrilled that you're there for 35 years and you're gonna be there for a lot longer, because we need your voice at the table. So thank you very much. And I'm gonna turn it over now to
Not to forget what I want to say. Is it saying that you deal with the insurance or you don't? What neighborhood health?
Oh, no, Blue Cross Blue Shield in
Blue
Massachusetts.
Cross
Yeah,
Blue Shield. You give the insurance Blue Cross. Blue
yeah,
Shield?
we offer insurance into the marketplace. Yeah.
But I noticed in Boston, Massachusetts, there is not much Blue Cross Blue Shield in the disability arena. They have Mass Health and they have Medicare, Medicaid, or Medicaid or Medicare. I don't know which one it is. But on Mass Health, like the Obamacare. But the Blue Cross Blue Shield is persons without disability and persons who are working usually
You know what, let's take
in the
that,
non-disability arena.
right, you know what, let's take that offline, because I think that's a really good question to kind of unpack and talk a little bit about the individuals that you interact with that have health insurance and what type of health insurance they do have. So let's talk about it afterwards. I think it's a great question, so thank you.
Thank you very much. And we'll have a few follow-ups with you, so
Yeah.
you will not be forgotten. I assure you of that. So Eric,
Yeah.
back to you for a second.
Sure.
What's the number one or recommendations you might make to young job seekers with disabilities just starting out in their career?
I think that's a great question. And honestly, when I consider, the first recommendation I would offer to any young person, newly seeking employment with a disability, it's honestly something that I would suggest, more broadly than just limited to employment. And my recommendation would be to, do everything you can to maintain a positive outlook. I feel like in my own experience, this is not to diminish the fact that, this is very hard work, and advocating for disability inclusion in the workplace or at the grocery store or just in society at large, has frustration associated with it. It takes effort. And if you're familiar with spoon theory, on certain days you may have fewer spoons than on other days by the end of the day. But, in my own life, I've found that, leading with a positive outlook has served me well. And I feel that, giving others the benefit of the doubt, people may not always ask the right question or use the right term. But generally speaking, in my experience, the vast majority of people are truly well-intentioned and well-meaning. And, it's only a small fraction or small percentage that, that may have other motives in how they're, behaving or treating us. But so, in the workplace, I think that, leading with kind of a positive outlook puts you in a stronger position because, you know, you're honestly educating, whether you realize it or not, you're helping others to better understand, you know, accommodations and, you know, how those of us with disabilities actually are very, very capable and able to you know, do a variety of different jobs. Like, you know, there really are no limits if, you know, we're in a culture of inclusion and, you know, an accommodating or welcoming environment. So I feel that, you know, definitely kind of, you know, whatever you need to do, at times you may need to step away or press pause, but kind of maintaining a positive outlook, you know, goes a long way in helping us, you know, find our best ways to, you know, to help create change and growth and advancement within the organization.
Yeah, great points, Eric. And I would say two things come to mind. One is that those hard knocks that you mentioned, we can't help but have some sort of anxiety. Anyone going to an interview has anxiety. I can imagine it really is a very difficult setting because it's not natural, right? You're putting yourself out there and folks are judging you and you're judging the individual employer. But don't let those hard knocks then be a baggage on your shoulders for that minute. Put your best foot forward, really know that people want to get to know you. And part of that is education, which is unfortunately a responsibility of ours as folks that identify with disabilities. But soon we start talking about our ability. So disabilities second, our abilities first. What do you bring to that employer as a candidate? Why do they want to consider you? And then from the manager's perspective is let's focus on that individual skills and what they bring as a potential employee. Because the rest of the efforts, whatever that is still so difficult to figure out, will come in place. We live our lives. We know what we need for accommodations. You don't have to figure it out for us. So it's not that burden on the employer. So those are very good points you make. And, you know, we all get rejection at some point. Don't take that rejection as the last straw. Keep at it. And we know it's a challenge. And for those employers that have not had the opportunity to interview individuals that have visible difference or non-apparent challenges, you know, don't worry about sticking your foot in it, because part of it is, it's not about political correctness to me personally. The ADA is a threshold. It's about knowing your jobs, knowing what it takes to do those jobs, and then interviewing for those skills. That's your bottom line. The rest will fall into place. So thank you for that. We'll come back to you, Eric, because we have several other questions. We can get to it. So now I'm going to turn to Colleen Moran. So Colleen, how did you get started? Because I know there are many, many ways that organizations do this work. How did you launch this at Mass General Brigham?
Sure. So there's some wonderful organizations in the state. And so our original work was with Mass Rehab when we got started with our work. And what we had been partners with them before and kind of through the different local offices, and you have to develop a relationship with different people in the different offices. And we said, wow, wouldn't it be awesome if we had one point of contact for the whole Mass Rehab? And so brought that idea to Mass Rehab and they said, hey, let's try it. So so it was wonderful. And we had Bill Allen and Karen Beth Mail, people know Karen Beth Mail, came to Spalding and did some job shadowing. So being able to look at certain jobs as the job description, but then going to see what it's really like to do that job, because it's, you know, giving that 3D picture and being able to say, like, you know, what's the pace of the flow on the patient floor, and what's the atmosphere like? There's call lights going, there's family members going by, there's, you know, people in wheelchairs, there's medical stuff going on. Do you want to be able to see that or not? I don't. So, you know, being able to figure out, is this the right place for you or not, really makes a big difference, in addition to looking what the job description is. So we started off with some partnership roles with, we had a wonderful department manager who would try anything with us. And I think that's a very key thing. If anyone's wanting to get started, is find your friend of the department kind of manager who is open and wants to try things. And so we hosted some students who came through, some participants who came through to be able to kind of do an internship. And I really think the internship is a nice way for an organization to get going on this work, because it's not such a commitment. It's not so intimidating to someone who is unfamiliar with hiring a person with a disability. It's got a beginning and an end date, and it really can kind of feel manageable. And I think, as Oz said, there's a lot of trepidation, I think, that people have getting into this work, because you don't want to make a mistake, and you don't want to insult the person, and you don't want to not do the right thing, and you don't really know what the right thing is. And so when you're working with one of the agencies, you've got an incredible support system, so you can just get in touch with them. So we've done internship programs through Mass Rehab, through their OJT program. They're on the job training, they're on the job experience program, their summer youth employment program, and also with Mass Commission for the Blind for the summer programs. And then we have done other placements with the Mass Commission for the Blind as well. But having that backup question answer kind of person, none of these agencies work in sort of a gotcha kind of mode. They're not looking to like call you out. They're looking to make it a success on both sides. And so it's a consult, it's a resource, it's a great ability to be able to move the whole project forward for everybody. I think, some of the internships obviously will roll into a hire, which is, wonderful. Some of them are not intended to, but it kind of brings the anxiety level down a lot. And then once that's over, within your organization, you can do a debrief and say what worked, what didn't work. How could we do this differently? How can we do this better? How can we do more of this? And so there's lots of ways to learn from sort of that, 3 or 6 month window.
No, I do recall those relationships that you build so well, and you do find champions within the organization, and you'll find that not everything works, but typically not everything works for any hire. So it's not unique to the community of individuals with disabilities. But however, there is a responsibility within our community to just be superhuman. So we need to bring that down a little bit, because the fact of the matter is that everyone can make a mistake, right? So the more you get to know the manager, the more you get to know the individual. And as any employer, you should really get to know every employee, and you should check in, because you don't know what you need when you first start a job 3 weeks after to say, gee, I really didn't understand that I may need this resource. And Colleen and her alliances with MRC and others, I know very well that it's about relationship building and trust building. So I know you've done a great job with that, and we're going to come back, because I really want to talk about those bumps along the way. So I'm going to turn over to Joan Phillips, our core MRCer. And Joan, what can we do to level the playing field?
So when I started earlier, I talked about the dual customer. So I'm going to focus on the business customer and leveling the playing field there. For me, it's, when there are discussions and strategic planning at the governor's level regarding economic development and workforce development, it's really important that individuals with disabilities and organizations who provide workforce development services to those individuals are at the table, so that they are not forgotten. Regarding businesses, it's really important that we continue to educate the business community that individuals with disabilities have interests, they have skills and abilities, and they are willing, ready, and able to fill positions across market sectors and industries across the Commonwealth. We can also have businesses share with other businesses their success stories regarding hiring and retaining individuals with disabilities. Look what happened when Microsoft decided that they were going to really focus on hiring individuals on the autism spectrum. And they realized success with that population of individuals and began to share it. All of a sudden, you heard Dell and Bank of America and others are now at the table talking about the benefits of hiring individuals on the autism spectrum. We need to do that across the board for all populations of individuals with disabilities. Businesses also need to develop relationships with organizations that provide employment services to individuals with disabilities, like a Mass Rehab Commission. We can help those businesses to learn about disabilities, it's a safe place to come and ask questions. Nobody has all the answers, right? But we have enough experience in our organization that we can help businesses who really want to find skilled individuals to fill their need for talent. For also, when organizations talk about DEI initiatives, we need to ensure that the A is also included there. This indicates that the expectations from the top down is that accessibility is important and that everyone is welcome and included within that organization. For service organizations like MRC, like our community providers, we need to ensure that we are training individuals for skills that are relevant for the current labor market. And I think that's when you get a win-win between our organizations and the business community when they come to us and we say, oh, we have 15,000 people, but do they have the specific skills that we're looking for? So it's very, very important for us to continuously be updated about labor market information, be at the table having those conversations with businesses, locally, regionally, national employers, so that we know what their need is and that we are informing the individuals who we serve about the talents that the business is looking for. What are the wages? What are the hours? And we're partnering with community colleges and trainers to ensure that the individuals we serve have the skills that are relevant today. Thank you.
Thank you. You've made a couple of points that I just want to return on. One is that businesses are competitive. We want to hire the best and the brightest from any community. And when Joan was sharing her experience, I'm thinking of the time when an employer received an award. I really wanted Mass General Brigham to receive that award. So we, within our own organizations, we were really interested in really raising the bar and being an example and a role model. And that doesn't have to happen within a large organization. You can be small and still make a real difference. And you mentioned the A for accessibility. And when you think of accessibility for the individuals that identify as having a disability, that's one thing. But there are so many other ways that accessibility benefits the organization. If you look at all those inclusive design or universally designed aspects of the ADA, everyone benefits from them, closed caption to push buttons and so on and so forth. Not only does the employee benefit from that, the organization, but the clients benefit from that. So there's a real win-win here. So thank you for that. I think it's gone so far so good. I hope our audience is appreciating this. Any thoughts you have, any comments? It's your time. So we're going to turn it over to Imene because she has a question on chat, and we hope to get back to our panelists. So Imene, what's your question?
Yeah, we have one question in the chat and then we can turn back.
Great.
Main takeaways for the day. Someone asked, how would you advise a person with a disability who is struggling because of employer's failure to provide ADA or taken away ADA? Should we suggest mass commission against discrimination as they have done nothing since the report in 2019 and they're still investigating?
That person can reach out to Mass Rehab Commission and somebody will actually work with them. So please reach out to Mass Rehab Commission. I'm in the administrative office, Joan Phillips. Joan.phillips@mass.gov, and I'll be happy to connect you to someone in the agency.
Well, thank you very much, Joan, and thank you for that question. All right, to the audience, it's yours, and then we'll go back to the chat. Start over here in the back. Can you give us your name? And
excuse me, I'm Stacy McGrath from the Police Center. And I'm calling this is for you. Could you just walk us through a little more what you started to tell us about when you wanted to identify one representative from the procedure work with you? Can you walk through that a little more? Like, was there because you hoping that if they have a better understanding of all your departments and their clients might be more pool of applicants for you.
Yes.
qualified pool of applicants.
That's exactly why we did that, yes, because we were working with different agencies on different roles, and we were saying, we know Greg Ames from here, and we know Karen from here, and we know this one from here, and so if we had one point of contact who really knew Spalding and could really understand the roles and how things worked here, the application process, how the managers, what they're looking for, what the sort of general, employee has for backgrounds, all those different things that would just kind of give that depth of knowledge of us as an organization. And then we could get the same with Mass Rehab with one person and being able to have sort of that, like a concierge service, we felt like it was, being able to really, get in touch with somebody right away. And not that we didn't have great response before, but just, one person with the depth of knowledge to share with us about Mass Rehab and would also be able to understand us to that level too.
And because we listened to Spalding, we developed what we've now call an account management system, where we have specific staff assigned to specific employer accounts. So that employer knows, if I need information about XYZ, this is my point of contact that I can get in touch with. If I have a job opening, this is my point of contact at MRC. That point of contact understands the business need, understands the culture of the organization, is well prepared to bring that information back to MRC so that we can better prepare the consumers specifically for what that business is seeking in terms of talent and somebody who would fit well within their organization.
Thank you. Thank you for the question.
Yeah.
And James, I think you had a question.
Yeah, there were so many common denominators. I'm the president of Working in Dorchester, been around 58 years. And Working is in our DNA. Working, we support about 1,200 folks with disabilities all over the state. And one common theme I've heard is talk to the businesses. I'm so happy the businesses are here. Blue Cross was at Working last week. 35-year volunteers for helping us folks. Thank you for our rehabilitation. Thank you for that.
Thank you.
Michael Keller show.
Yeah,
Good. So one of the things I talk about a lot, and I'm so glad the commission is now established, is businesses I don't think realize that an individual with disability can do the job, wants to do the job, and we know they can do the job. We live and breathe it. The other half of that is we support them through the intelligence. And we've done a lot of research. I don't want to get on a soapbox as a question. I want to hear a reaction. We support them, and it costs us taxpayers between 35 and 40,000 a year, which is great. And people who are on the talent should be. But I meet a lot of turning 22 families. And you mentioned the autism spectrum. We have about 58 young folks with autism, great jobs. And we say, give the employment a shot first. Don't rush into SSI, SSDI, food stamps, etc. Because that's a life of poverty. When you stop and figure it, you're on it, it's a life of poverty. But just think, we've got one of those individuals, a full-time job. Taxpayers don't have to spend the $40,000 a year. They pay taxes. It's a $50,000 swing. So I love the fact that the businesses are here. We have contracts, everybody, DTA, Mass Rehab, DDS, you name it. The state has been phenomenal in supporting folks with disabilities. I think we have to include the businesses now. Chambers of commerce, Women Council, everybody, get them out there. What is it? What's the statistic? This X number of jobs open in Massachusetts.
Yeah, there are over
half the people qualified to fill the jobs that are open.
Yeah, there are over 700,000 jobs available in Massachusetts, which means there are 2 jobs for every job seeker.
And you may know the data too. In Massachusetts, there's 394,000 individuals with disability between the ages of 18 and 60 who are on intelligence. I bet meet any one of them, that want to work.
Yeah.
We have all. Thank you.
Thank you, James. Can I just react to it, and then we'll definitely take your question. So one of the things that you mentioned, I think is important, and we experience as an employer, is that there's a bit of a risk taking here to lose that safety net when someone's going through that transition. So it's almost like a three-prong approach. It's the individual where they're maturing, it's the employer, and then there is the guardian or the parent. And so when that time comes for that transition, it becomes a little bit dicey for the employer, because as employers, you really don't know what to say or do when you shouldn't. That's not the role of the employer. So to have that safety net there creates a bit of a barrier to that transition. And we're going to talk about that in one of the sessions that Imene mentioned. But I think it's really important to think about that, because I think it's a barrier to, it shouldn't be such a risk, but I can understand sometimes that becomes a barrier.
Yeah.
Us.
Yeah.
We know that.
Yeah.
Our families always talk to all the time. Well, we'll lose our son and daughter.
So we have to be better
We'll be better.
from the policy perspective on that. And I hope that the upcoming session will address some of that. Tom, it's terrific what you do at Work Inc. I thank you for the question. Any other reactions? And I'm going to take the question from our audience
Yeah,
here.
I have a reaction. So just want to share with you the aggregate earnings of consumers successfully employed in FY '23 through the efforts of MRC was $75.6 million. And the estimated public benefits savings from successfully employed consumers in FY '23 was $21.2 million.
Are they still
Thank-
sending persons to school?
Give me 1 second. I'll take your question in a minute because we have one waiting. And I have to say that this has been so powerful that we're running out of time. But if you don't have to run, we're going to take your question. We're going to take the chat question, and then we'll follow up. I'm sorry, your name?
Hello, my name is Lynn Campbell, and I'm just advocating for myself and also advocating for people with intellectual or various disabilities. And I like what that gentleman had said, and also Laura, I'm a mother of one, and a parent of one child. And I find that working with my services and MRC and other programs, that I've been able to get a job, hold a job for almost, it will be a year coming up at the end of the month. With giving a shout out to the Marshals Corporation, Max, and I'm just thankful to be here.
Well, that's a great comment, because we really do need to recognize those employers, and I appreciate that. And I'm all for good mothers. So let me turn it over. Let me turn it over to Imene for that question in the chat.
Yes, we have a question. Are there any active search projects in area of central Middlesex labs building skills of individuals with significant disabilities, including intellectual disabilities, to prepare them for employment? So, are there any active search projects in this person interested in the central Middlesex area? For lab
Joan, you might be the closest to that.
So MRC has offices across the state, central Middlesex areas, Lowell and Lower Lawrence, Medford, Malden, and we do have offices in those areas. So please reach out to an MRC office. We are online, and you can find information regarding our Lowell, Lawrence, Malden office, Somerville, whichever one is closest to you.
Thank you, Joan. And I want to recognize the gentleman was very patient. You have one final question?
It's more commentary.
Please.
than a question. Was on the team that university program Dell Technologies. And one of the first calls we made for folks was to MRC, and we've had great success with MRC. Laura, you mentioned the employee resource group. The program at Dell right out of the employee resource group, as did another within both of those employers recognize their employee service groups and instituted very good hiring programs in both companies as supported by CEOs and all through executive management. It's the commitment of those companies to change their culture that really makes the these programs work, and it's the supports that they provide after the employment that really help as well. So I think employers looking to start rehabilitation programs, think about ERGs, and think about the supports you're going to provide to these individuals. And also that it's a long-term commitment, it's not just a one-off thing.
Well, thank you for that. Those are the role models that we are happy to have in our state. So you're welcome to stay. We really appreciate you stay. I'm going to ask our panelists to give us a closeout comment. I will ask each one to share a key message, and then we'll thank you for your time. So let's start with Laura.
Great conversation here, and we'll continue this. I would say that, to those that are out there that are dealing with a disability personally, or a family member, or they're aged into it, or they live with their own life, you need to find a mentor. Find someone that can help coach you and encourage you to either stay in the workplace or get in the workplace, or just be able to help you sustain. Because a lot of the points that were mentioned here today is so important to, know that we have a job and we can thrive, and we want to be connected. And so I do say that, and, mentors can be found in your workplace. Mentors can be found within the community, if you're tied to a community organization, in your church, somewhere where you can find someone who says, you know what, you can do this, and help find a path forward. We all have that, and maybe they're not titled a mentor, but it's never now more important to have someone to be able to have your back and help push you along and say you can do it. So those are
Thank you very much, Laura.
I want to reach out to those that are,
Yep, I appreciate that.
struggling.
That's a great suggestion. And now Erich.
Yeah, I mean, complete agreement with so much of everything that has already been said. One final parting thought that I would offer is, this, as we've described a few times already, like this is very important work. The advocacy effort involved in disability inclusion is very big. And it's not something that any of us should feel comfortable kind of sitting out or not being actively involved in. So the suggestion would be, however is most comfortable and most appropriate for you, whether you're comfortable being a public face or public spokesperson advocating for change around disability practices and disability inclusion, or you're more of a behind the scenes planning, logistics, things like that. Some active role is essential. It's incumbent on all of us who are concerned with seeing change in these areas to have some sort of an active participation. And so I would encourage anyone to really figure out the way that's most comfortable for you to contribute yourself, and figure out your best path forward. Shameless plug, separate from that, if I may, as a pure coincidence. The team that I'm a part of at Harvard University just posted a digital accessibility specialist role just this morning. So hot off the presses. If anyone knows of someone seeking employment as a digital accessibility specialist, please have them be in touch. Welcome you. So thank you.
Thank you, Erich. And that's a great plug, already recruiting.
Yep.
So let me turn it over to Colleen.
So my thought is give it a try, hire someone who has a disability and give it a try. Not everything is puppy dogs and rainbows. I know Oz has hinted that we ran into some bumps along the way, but we do with other employees too. And so that's the difference. So the real troubles that we had are really around scheduling. So we brought people in for some roles with a partnership with the Mass Rehab, and we brought people in full time. And then they ran into the cliff effect and said, I can't do this anymore. I'm going to lose my benefits. And so we said, well, what if you go part-time? Can you stay part-time? And then we had hired 8 people. We can bring in 8 more people to do the other 40, to make the 40 hours. And so we've got 16 people jobs now instead of the 8. So, there's solutions out there. And so you have to kind of think differently and work with people and find out what they need. So, any of the organizations that have been in this room or in this conversation would be more than happy to talk with you. I know Mass Commission for the Blind has a virtual job fair on Friday. So if people want to tune in and just watch and see what that's like, no obligation. But you could observe and see what that's about. Carol's right over here if you want to talk to Carol afterwards on how to see that.
Thank you, Colleen. Yeah, no, that's great. And as you can see, we're all ready to help in whatever way is meaningful to you. And now we have Joan to close us out.
So I just want to say, 2 generations of individuals with disabilities have grown up since the passing of the Rehabilitation Act. And this year is 35 years since the ADA. And it's shameful to see that the employment rate for individuals with disabilities sits at 22%, as we said earlier, versus 67% for individuals who are not disabled. We can't continue to have this. We can't continue to just kind of chip away at this issue. There are real people here with real talents, real abilities, who really want to work. I think we can all do this. I think Massachusetts has the smartest minds, the hardest working people. I think together we can make Massachusetts the model state for hiring individuals with disabilities. Let's do this together. Thank you.
That was very powerful. I don't even think there's anything else to say. I think that's a great closeout. I was going to say, let's give him a round of applause. Let's give him another one. So on behalf of the commission, I really appreciate your attendance, your participation and being here with us. And thank you for your time. And for those online, thank you for being there as well. Have a good afternoon.
Thank you.